So in terms of what makes you more bullish on cultured meat, is that because of changes in regulation and advances in science? So now you're thinking that there's going to be less of a gap. My understanding was originally when we're thinking about this problem in timelines, like plant-based meat, probably we're going to get to market sooner with a product that was price equivalent and taste equivalent, but then eventually cultured meat would get there. Are you now thinking that that gap is smaller?
Yeah, I mean, exactly what you just said was certainly my assumption, maybe even until I started writing the book and started having conversations with people and realizing, making plant fats and proteins behave like animal fats and proteins is really hard. Like one of the things that Aaron Rees-Clayton, one of GFI's earliest scientists, pointed out to me, which I just really hadn't thought about until like 2.5 years ago, was that however many tissue engineers there are on the planet, that is roughly the number of scientists who have the basic skill set to understand what we need to do on the cultivated meat side. But there is just no reason to try to figure out how to get plant fats and proteins to behave like animal fats and proteins unless you're working on plant-based meat. And there's no reason to try to replicate the umami experience of meat unless you're working on plant-based meat. So if you look at the people who have been the pioneers on the cultivated meat side, like the first one is a guy named Mark Post, who is a dual PhD in tissue engineering and medical doctor. He had taught medicine at Harvard Medical School, and he's kind of the first to dive in. The second is Uma Valeti, the founder of Upside Foods, and he's a medical doctor. He trained at the Mayo Clinic. He was a professor of medicine at the University of Minnesota, and he decided, hey, I'm going to make meat. I can do even more good in the world than as a cardiologist if I form this company that was Memphis Meats. Now it's Upside Foods. Similarly, the company Wild Type, which is doing cultivated salmon, Arya Ethelbein is a medical doctor. And you can really understand, okay, this is what it looks like to grow tissue for humans. This is what it's going to look like for animals. But on the plant-based side, it really is a different way of looking at the world. And the vast majority, like nobody's trained for it. Nobody has the range of skills necessary to figure out how you do the plant fats and proteins, animal fats and proteins, and umami, and manufacturing so that the tissues actually behave like animal tissue as you're producing it. So it really did take somebody like Pat Brown somebody that brilliant to really wrap their mind around it. And I think that's why Impossible has been successful. And there just weren't a lot of people who actually followed what Pat was saying and doing. They didn't understand what the challenge was. And that was, me and us too, until I really started diving into it to understand why are we struggling.
And so that led to quite a splurge of companies that were very green and underestimated that challenge and started and then closed down.
Yeah. And then a bunch of them actually said, we're the next Impossible, but better because we're going to use ancient grains and we're not going to use methyl cellulose or whatever. And it was like, wait a minute. No, this is literally Garden Burger. Like not even, you are absolutely the next Garden Burger. Like just really people kept thinking culinary. And it's interesting to me. So one of the sort of fascinating things about consumer research here is even if you say the products are going to compete on price and taste, if you say, if plant-based meat, if cultivated meat competed on price and taste, would you switch some substantial amount of your meat consumption over? The top two reasons that people say no are not going to be delicious enough and it's going to cost too much, even though the question says, like, people just can't suspend disbelief. So as I was writing the book, I oftentimes, as I did now, if I'm in California, I'll show up at Starbucks at like the one this morning at 4:30 in the morning, which is when they open. And there's generally not anybody else there, maybe some other East Coasters. So I did a lot of polling of Starbucks baristas, including for the cover of the book. When I was like showing different steak photos, one of the Starbucks baristas was like, "This should be a Starbucks commercial." You really do have to like force people to grapple with the idea of price and taste parity because they will just intuitively think, okay, plant-based meat can't reach price and taste parity. Cultivated meat, there's just like no way it can replicate the animal experience. So there is a significant degree to which, that's kind of what Chapter 8 is about. Woodrow Wilson in 1906 was president of Princeton University, and he said automobiles are never going to be anywhere because they're really hard to start. They cost too much and they break down constantly. Like he couldn't conceive of a world where that wasn't true about automobiles.
So when someone does accept the premise that cultured meat can taste as good, if not better, and be priced the same or cheaper, what percentage of people are willing to try it?
I mean, it varies by country, but the worst numbers, even when you call it lab grown, even when you call it in vitro, the worst numbers are still like 25%.
That's high.
It's 25 times as big as the current market for plant-based meat. And the thing about that is, like, oftentimes when I'm doing the EV comparison or the solar comparison, people will say, well, food is personal, food is emotional. There's so much more to food, than the driving a car, like how you turn the lights on. And that's true, but think about if we were sitting here in 1940 and somebody was saying, actually, how I think we should produce meat. We should cram 50,000 chickens in a shed. Obviously, 80% of them would die in that, but now we've got drugs. And so we can dose all of them with these antibiotics and they'll live in their, just explain what is actually happening. And everybody would go, no, food is cultural, food is emotional. No way will people stand for industrial animal farming. And yet that's 99% of meat, because the emotional, the cultural, the aspects of food that align to those things, and that's absolutely true, the end product is what people are looking for. And that's why convincing people to change their diets and eat something else is so hard. But changing the production process to eliminate the bacterial contamination, the drug residues, et cetera, once people are, the early numbers are great, but once people are familiar with the benefits and the products actually exist, we're just going to shift how meat is made.
That's a great point, because we're all so disconnected of where our food comes from anyway.
Yeah. And I think for the sort of Joe Rogans and Michael Pollans, as I said earlier, there will be more of that kind of meat. It will be more expensive, but obviously they can afford it and they will pay for it. That's what they're, both doing right now. But for the 99% of meat that is industrial animal meat, the industry will just shift in this direction. Like, there's nobody at Tyson or JBS or Cargill who is enthusiastic about industrial animal farming. And if they can make even more money shifting, and the fragility of the system, like all the things that make it environmentally problematic also just make it incredibly fragile, all those extra stages of production. If they can consolidate that in one plant and lose all the headaches, like, that is incredibly appealing.
Do you think there's a day that comes where people see the cultured meat as truly as a kind of cleaner meat that doesn't contain ivermectin or whatever other antibiotics or potentially bacterial contamination, etc.?
Absolutely. And that's also a huge incentive for the industry to shift in that direction. So producing meat, and the animals don't have digestive tracts. So Campylobacter, Salmonella, E. coli, like all of that stuff goes away. And then, FDA and USDA, they have 100 different drugs, including ivermectin, which have minimum daily allowances. I think most meat eaters would probably rather have zero ivermectin and ractopamine in their meat, even if USDA and FDA say actually you can have a little and it's fine. So yes, it's just a cleaner, healthier product. Once it hits price and taste parity and familiarity grows, it's just really hard to imagine people preferring industrial animal farms.
Today's episode is proudly brought to you by 8 Sleep. Here's one thing that many people don't realize. As the temperature outside rises, our sleep quality tends to drop. And this is not a coincidence. Your body needs to cool down to enter deep sleep. When your bedroom stays warm, that process gets completely disrupted. In fact, research suggests that for every degree your sleep environment rises above 67 degrees Fahrenheit, you lose measurable deep sleep. In summer, this is the single biggest sleep disruptor that many of us are not addressing. The Pod 5 by 8 Sleep is designed specifically for this. It's a smart cover that sits on top of your existing mattress. You don't need to replace anything, and it actively cools your sleeping surface down to 55 degrees Fahrenheit all night, automatically, even when it's 90 degrees outside. It It also heats from 55 to 110 degrees Fahrenheit, so it works all year round. And because it's dual zone, you and your partner each get your own temperature, independently controlled. The results, users see up to 34% more deep sleep and tend to fall asleep 44% faster. Individual results can vary. 8 Sleep also tracks heart rate, HRV, respiratory rate, and sleep stages at clinical grade accuracy. No wearable required. The pod is not a medical device and should not be used as a substitute for professional medical advice. Summer doesn't have to mean worse sleep. Use my code, THEPROOF, at 8sleep.com/theproof for up to $350 off the Pod 5. And the cool thing is you get 30 days to try it at home and return it if you don't love it. But I'm confident you will. That's 8sleep.com/theproof. Code THEPROOF.